Hello, horror fan, best friends, and ghoulish knights, and welcome to the 5th episode of Murders with Mertens. This is a podcast about horror, comedy horror, cosmic horror, body horror, the horror adjacent, thrillers, the supernatural, the psychologically terrifying, scary films in general. Each episode, I intend to sit down with a guest and discuss one of their favorite films so that we can gush about everything that makes it just so damn cool. If you're new to Murders with Mertens, then welcome. And if you've been here from the beginning, you may need to question your choices in life, but thank you. You can provide some much needed support for this little endeavor by subscribing to the channel, liking and sharing the video, dropping a comment below to keep the conversation going. It's all greatly appreciated. So let's not waste any time in diving into things and introducing my guest, Mark Freeman. Mark, how the hell are you?
Hello, not too bad.
Good.
Very excited to talk about Red State.
Yes. Our film for today's episode is 2011's horror comedy Red State, written and directed by Kevin Smith. Mark, you're one of the biggest Kevin Smith fans I know.
Yep.
What's your history with the film?
So my history is, my knowledge of Red State started out from podcasts that he was doing. So he did a film school about Red State. So the first time I saw the trailer was actually, I heard it on an audio-only podcast. So you just hear Michael Parks through the trailer. You see none of all the action that's going on the screen. And it was several weeks or months even until the actual trailer was released publicly that you could watch it. But then they went through and talked to like the costume designer about all the process, etc. So I had a lot of knowledge going into the film, but not too much knowledge of the plot. So,
Nice.
Which obviously serves you well because it is a twisting film, and
This is absolutely one of those where a person should not watch the trailer before going into it, if at all possible. The previous
you can or just listen to it because that gives you a tonal scene, but none of the actual
it's a pretty
spoilers.
chatty trailer, to be fair, right?
It's like Michael Parks singing.
Yeah, like most of Kevin Smith's stuff, it's just dialogue. Really, it's That's good. That works. It's like the previous episode with Yaz, we did Takashi Miike's Audition, which was marketed as a horror film because it was some of the same producers that made the original Japanese The Ring, and ultimately, it's a film that would have done better to have no expectation of any of the twists or of it being horror in any way, because you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop when the first 2/3 of that film play like a romantic drama. And then it goes completely off the rails, and that is not a film for you, Mark.
I mean, I wouldn't say this was necessarily a horror film, but I do state this is probably the scariest film I've seen because there are zero leaps in logic that you have to make of a supernatural killer or anything else. Everything is so plausible and so messed up. And certainly, we've gone even further, since 2011 towards even more realism.
Just what I was about to say, because, 10 years or so ago, we would have thought, this is so laser focused on what we think of as a Red State and some of the folks you may find there. But, oh no, it's so much worse than that. As far as my history with the film, somewhat similar, just seeing trailers online, being a Kevin Smith fan, I'm down. He seems to be breaking slightly away from comedy. I'm sure there will be some comedic undertones throughout the film, of which there are many. But I was down. And for whatever reason, I was not able to see this in a theater, which is funny.
We did a limited run. Again with Q&As, so they were quite difficult to get tickets and were only in limited places.
That said, I lived I was just outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan, where the University of Michigan's located, and ultimately that would have been a likely stop, or at least somewhere in Metro Detroit would have been a likely stop. So I probably could have, but I ended up renting this through Blockbuster's disc version of their format for Netflix before Netflix killed Blockbuster, and wow, this was a movie for sure.
So random fun fact about this film. there was a misunderstanding between me and Kevin Smith about Red State on the Plus One from London Live show, where I said, after I asked the question, and Red State was a massive headfuck and I loved it. And he thought I said hedgehog. It leads to a funny little dialogue on that podcast. But nice. Yeah, so that's my other history with Red State.
Nice. Okay, it's a hedgehog. Sure.
Yeah, well, it's had a head fuck. Yeah.
So, as with previous episodes, I intend to kind of use the plot as sort of a guide to get us through some of the cool bits here.
So I'll introduce some box office trivia before we start the episode. Sure. I think because it probably won't make sense to do it in the plot. So, Red State holds the number 8th position for per top opening theatre averages, with a average of $204,000. Admittedly, it was only shown at one screen, which I think was Radio City Music Hall, but that's the 8th highest per screen average of all time.
Which is pretty dope and expected from something like this, I think. You've got plenty of people from, the older millennials and younger Gen Xers like myself that are just huge Kevin Smith fans. We grew up with his stuff in the 90s and the early aughts, and, we were ready for something new. So that totally makes sense. And
you were given not a Kevin Smith film.
I'm sorry?
And what you got was not a Kevin Smith film.
Only in so much as some of the dialogue is very Kevin Smith. But,
I don't even see it. There's a bit at the beginnings and the ends, maybe, but with the kids and stuff. But obviously, a lot of the rest of it is, religious and all the rest of it. But I think it was just it was 3 years since Zack and Mary Cop Out appeared in the middle, but we don't talk about Cop Out. That's a horror film in its own state.
Yeah. It's we'll leave that one alone. So the film opens with a lovely little protest of a gay man's funeral. We're introduced to this 5 Points super creepy church that's very much poking fun at the Westboro Baptist Church.
But very clearly stated later on that the Westboro Baptist Church
are separate. I love that little dig. Yes. Yeah. They're sewers, not doers. Yep. And this kid, moseys on, gets to school a little bit late, says he was late because of the wonderful protest that had him a little bit trapped in traffic. And this classroom conversation is very much pure Kevin Smith. You've got overly self-aware teens and a teacher that's way too cool to be real and all of that. But it's interesting conversation still.
Yeah.
Just
she excuses the curse word or whatever.
Oh, yes, because
talking about a heated situation and then.
Yeah, because Park's character is indeed an asshole. Yes.
Yeah. And then gives one of the girls grief over not knowing who they are because they're in our own backyard, etc. But a fun little thing, and probably one of the few Kevin Smithy bits of this, or more comedy bits of this.
Yeah, and this is where we're really introduced to our trio of ne'er-do-wells. You've got what is it? Trevor, Billy Ray, and is it Jared? No. Yes, Jared. Okay.
Yeah.
And they have plans. I think it's Jared that introduces the other boys to this website that he describes as Craigslist for hooking up, but I rebut that with Craigslist is Craigslist for hooking up. At least back in the day before they scrubbed out some of that stuff. I'm sure there's still a little bit of that kind of
and they established that everyone's hiding their faces.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just pictures of naked women with their faces covered up.
Yep. And it definitely looks like a great way to end up as a lampshade in some creepy guy's basement, for sure.
Yeah.
But they go with it because there are some horny teenagers and they want to get laid.
And oh look, here's one in Coopersdale that's 20 miles down the road or whatever.
Right, absolutely, because they're complaining that there's only listings in New York and
New York
LA,
and LA, and yeah.
Yeah, maybe that could be a little bit of a commentary on the indie film scene too. You only get releases in New York and LA, and if you're really lucky, it might be at a theater in a town near you. So ultimately,
which we were also already established by this point. Coopersdale was where the 5 Point West Baptist Church is,
right,
etc.
Right. So yeah, they decide, okay, we got to make this happen, and they want to borrow Trevor's parents' car, right? It is Trevor, right?
Yeah, Trevor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering if I'm Mandelaing myself or something at this point, but yeah, his parents, they couldn't.
No,
give a
so
shit Travis. Okay, Travis. Good.
Travis, Billy Ray, Jared. I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so his parents couldn't give two shits as long as he brings it back with a full tank of gas because they're just in love with the fact that they were on TV, being captured on the news close to the protest.
Yeah.
And isn't that the mom from Breaking Bad?
I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm not really.
She looks
Breaking
awfully
Bad,
familiar, but
Anna Gunn, Travis's mum. Yeah, actress Breaking Bad. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So actually, this film's got a pretty dope cast when you break it all down. And lots of people sprinkled through.
Yeah, and they hold back quite a lot of some of the big guns, and then they also do some fun stuff with some of the other ones.
Oh yeah. So the kids meet up that night, and they're being teenagers in a car. Somehow sideswiping a parked car because I guess
with no lights on, and there's no lights in the country road, etc.
I suppose, but I think that still doesn't excuse the poor driving personally. But yeah, they sideswipe this car and they say, they stop real quick and they get out and they're like, oh, there's nobody
empty.
There. Yep. Oh, we're in the clear.
Until one head pops up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And they run away and drive off in a flash there. And then another head pops up. And I don't think I realized when I first saw this that it was Stephen Root until he shows up later in the film.
So Stephen Root's the first head that pops up, which is, obviously
the
what
sheriff.
We'll know.
Yes.
Yes.
Future spoilers, but the sheriff. And, not George Carlin getting down there, but...
unfortunately no longer with us at that point, I believe.
Exactly. But a nice little nod to a previous Kevin Smith film there. So they make it to the lady, the 38-year-old woman in Coopersdale that they're planning on getting down with. And
I love the comment of, but she lives in a trailer. You live in a trailer.
Yep, that's good. And she wonders if they're, up to the devil's business tonight. The devil's business. It's... So you're,
and I don't let a man in me unless he's had two. But there's these kids, they really have got their their senses turned off here. They are horny blinded.
Yes, they are. At this point. Because you have an.
It also it looks like a single bed, which is. Yes, that's going to get very awkward very quickly for them if it actually happens.
But they're young and dumb, and they, up to the devil's business, all right. And yes, they take opened beers from somebody that they just met. Also,
she does drink one.
She
is doing sleight of hand there, etc., and selecting.
Exactly.
She pulls theirs.
They didn't.
She pulls theirs, and then you can see her get the one from another. It looks like from the other side or whatever.
Yeah, these are obviously kids that were never taught to accept an open beverage from somebody they don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do. And
Yeah, but they're
well,
also in America in what, 17, 16, 17. So
yeah,
being offered a beer,
at that age, at that time in
is a
history,
novelty.
I feel like they should have known still. But again, they're stupid, and like you said, they're kind of horny blind too. So next thing you know, they're all passing out. Crap. One of them even makes
Yeah.
a comment about being roofied. But all of a sudden, you've got this awesome, awesome shot of the camera under the burlap in the dog
In
cage
the
and
yeah,
the
being
light
tramp.
filtering through, diffused through the burlap.
Yeah.
It's so good and so creepy as he's
It's
being
it's
wheeled
what's
around.
it's on the DVD home screen or whatever,
Oh, it is.
Blu-ray home screen,
Oh,
just
wow.
like a loop of that. It's like, yeah, that sums up this film without
Oh,
giving you away anything.
it's terrifying. And then we get peeking a little bit.
Yeah.
Or no, it's the kid that lifts it up first, and he gets his first
Yeah.
shot of what is happening. And I think he can see the man.
You can see Ralph
to the
Garman.
cross. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who doesn't get to say, who will exit this film without a line, which became a running gag between him and Kevin Smith, that his lines always got cut from this film.
Yep. And considering, his time with, Hollywood Babylon with Kevin Smith and so on, just seeing him as this silent, kind of menacing character, it's...
But also loving husband and father, and
I suppose. But... he's not the Ralph Garman we know and love.
yeah.
At least not now. But yeah, we see the guy shrink wrapped and ball gagged to the
And then do we finally see the whole congregation here?
Mm-hmm.
And if you notice here, it's pretty much everyone is sat in a family unit, which will obviously come in late. Will be a plot point later on as well. Yeah, but again, that's also based upon the Phelps family and like how that operates. How you get in the inner circle there, it's via marriage is your only real route in.
Yeah. There's comments
blood
about
or
that
marriage
kind of thing later. Yes.
Yeah.
And here's where we get the sermon.
To Michael Parks, my God, just it's chewing the scenery and the best possible, but coming across as this, you see how loving he is to the grandkids and like playful he is with them and all the rest of it, whilst spewing vile twistings of the Bible and selective quotes and justifying doing nasty things, and how everyone out there is wrong and going to burn in hell, and establishing like the cult-like state, it's us versus them, but just with all these little flares of being really loving father, grandfather, and
it's terrifying. I didn't take any specific notes of what is actually said in his sermon, but I mean, it's one of those things you kind of just have to experience.
I've got some, so I've got a few bits about some of the ones when we get to the later bit, when we get to addressing the guy, cellophane to the cling film to the cross.
Yep.
With a ball gag.
Absolutely freaking out, like you do in that situation when you find yourself shrink wrapped and ball gagged to a cross. And
so then when he's referring to him, he's gay guys, insects, homosexuals, sheep amongst wolves, moths, etc. Like he basically refers to him as everything other than a human, and very using loads of different language there to like compare him to insects and flies on honey and all the rest of it, or no, flies on shit and moths to a flame and all the rest of it, establishing him as other.
Yes.
And lesser, and
his phrasing is all very, very, very intentional, and just, I mean, it's all done in a way to get these people following you to absolutely see.
Yeah, and then the line of this. Oh, it's about to get. Would you mind taking the kids out? It's about to get very adulted here.
Yeah.
And then we see all the kids leave with the
Dana, I think.
Dana, is it?
But Melissa Leo's
Dana.
daughter.
Yeah. Who just come off the Oscar for The Fighter. Just won the Oscar for The Fighter when she started. And I hate her in this. But such a performance as well. So many.
Absolutely, you love to hate a lot of these people on both the ATF and the 5 Point side to a certain degree.
And does he start singing? That's afterwards, isn't it? When he starts singing, I can't remember if he was singing when the kids were going out and then changed, or he's singing at the end. But
I think so. Yeah.
But fantastic.
Yeah.
And then when you hear him sing, like Michael Parks, absolutely phenomenal. And Stinger. But little did Kevin Smith know when he was shooting the film, Michael Parks originally started as a country singer and sung with the likes of Johnny Cash.
Nice. Very nice.
Michael Parks had a very interesting career and did a lot of things, and then got blackballed from Hollywood, all sorts of things, and then was brought back by Quentin Tarantino in from Dusk Till Dawn, and that's where obviously Kevin saw him and then used him in this and in Tusk. But his performance here is just nails this character, and it really helps to sell the film that he's such a charismatic, charming man, but who is using his words so expertly and so precisely to.
He is that Jim Jones
to convince people
cult leader.
That these really nasty things but this is for good. This is these aren't humans. These aren't we're saving them.
Yep. And then it's time, and they start to shrink wrap the guy's head.
Yeah.
And I think this
they say watch the orifices at start, so they're doing the time, then they do the bottom towards the end, so he doesn't.
And this hand cannon, I think, is inside of a hollowed out Bible as well.
So he goes to the Bible, opens the Bible, and the gun's in the Bible, making it holy. Well, but also wait a second, isn't hollowing out a Bible bad?
Maybe that's one of those interpretations of the Bible that they find lesser than. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's certainly some Christians that feel that way about the King James version and so on and so forth. So that's all terrifying. And this guy is just a mess of tears and snot, as he should be. And they put a bullet in his head, and his head's on fire.
Well, because they're doing it close. His head isn't on fire. I think the shrink wrap is on fire.
That could be
because obviously contact with a gun.
Regardless, his noggin is flaming, and they quickly wrap it up to keep the blood from getting everywhere as much as possible, because you would have had some amount of spray. But they wrap him up.
Drop him down the trapdoor to where the two other kids are.
There is a very satisfying crunch when he hits the rim of the trapdoor, and Jared sees his buddies down there as it's all happening. It's all quite terrifying. And then this
is when we get the
Jared's
"You're
turn.
Already dead, sinner" line. Yes.
Yeah, and Jared repeating over and over that he's not even gay. Yeah, and
Ralph Garman with a cattle prod just cut him off or whatever. Or was that might be earlier? But
Yep. And he's in one of these little cheap ass dog kennels too, which I feel like if he really tried, he may have been able to pry himself out of. That said, you've got tons of people around you who are obviously armed. So that's probably not happening anyways.
Yeah.
But they go and they
get him up on the
wrap
cross.
him up on the cross, and wow, this is all getting very uncomfortable. But meanwhile, the boys in the basement realize, hey, this guy's got a compound fracture, and I think I might be able to use this bone to.
We've also missed the scene in the sheriff's office previous to
Oh,
this,
yes.
where we
Yep.
introduced the
Because a lot of
deputy
this
and
is intercut. Yeah.
yeah, and introduced the deputy and introduced the fact that the sheriff has a wife and is their anniversary. You know, why were you stopped us making a reservation for our anniversary, and then introduced the conversation about the deputy wanting to take his wife or fiance. I think I can't remember his wife or
I think
fiance.
it's their 5th anniversary coming up.
Yeah. But like maybe go to Europe or something, which will
that'll come
play
back.
out,
Yep.
come back later on.
Yep. And he was just on his way out, so he's not particularly great about getting this assignment to track down the wagon that sideswiped the sheriff's car.
Yeah.
But he's going to go do his thing, and we wouldn't have a plot without it. So, and it's in all of this happening that somebody is like, wait, hold up, because they've got an alert in their security system. Wow,
tablet.
they got the tablet with the video from outside. I mean, they're pretty high tech for
Yeah, but I mean, you also learn later on a lot of what's been going on, and that they have been fortifying the compound for years now after an incident, and the locals have been messing with them, and but that all comes out later. So it's not and they've also got the magnetic locks on the gates because it's the
so the deputy gets out of his car. He's poking around with his flashlight. He sees the station wagon, and he goes to reach for the gate, rattles it a little bit, and this is where Parks Preacher comes out and is like, "Yep, got that magnetic lock, and what can we do you for?" Basically.
And it is extremely respectful and charming, and seems the most accommodating person you could come across.
Yeah, they have their awkward little conversation there, and
the granddaughters must have done it.
That horribly
women can't drive.
About women in cars. Yes.
But again, he's playing to his audience. You can tell that he's adapted his language, he's adapted his everything, and what he's saying to be playing to the audience, and getting the deputy on his side. We'll just pay for it. Let's not involve the insurance companies.
Exactly. And the deputy's on board because he's a smooth talker, right?
I get to go home and it's sorted, and it's the sheriff anyway, so I don't need to worry about I can just go, he's going to pay you. It doesn't have to go. Obviously, I think if it was like a civilian who'd reported it, that would be a bit more dodgy of the police coming back and go, "Hey, do you just want to take the cash off this bloke?"
And so the deputy turns around, and he's heading back to his cruiser, and then he stops, and you think, "Oh shit!" And then he turns around, and he's got a question. And hey, remember a few years back when you went to Italy to protest that dead Pope's funeral? And Parks is like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Is Italy nice?" I was thinking about taking my wife somewhere exotic for our 5-year, and is Italy nice?
It's all right, except for all the Italians.
Right.
And Italians are very
very much. That's very much small town diner. Would you like Italian dressing with that salad? Yes. Yeah, that's perfect.
Still being most amenable, reasonable person.
Yeah, it still in some way kind of plays into the casual racism and homophobia and so on and so forth that is just greatly evident in this church. It's like when people talk about H.P. Lovecraft, for example. What a horrible racist fuck he was. He was the kind of racist that would have found Italians offensive, But yeah. And then meanwhile, intercut with all of this, this is where Billy Ray has gotten loose. And, Ralph Garman hears what's going on in the basement, and they pop open the trap door. They see them just about loose. He slams it down, runs away to go confront them. Billy Ray is able to get fully loose, but not
his friend,
his buddy there.
And he just leaves him.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's running.
Dude, 2 seconds there, you could have freed your mate up. So.
Yeah, but this is all serves the plot here too. He finds a dark room to hide in and flips on the fluorescence, and oh shit, this is the armory.
And suddenly you realize that this film is probably going somewhere different.
Yep. It's I don't think he's happy to have found himself surrounded with all these guns. Given what has gone on, I probably would have been elated that I had some firepower of my own in that moment. But he's obviously terrified, and rightly so, because, this good Catholic boy is crossing himself and he's ready to throw down.
but you can also see
he is shaking like crazy.
Like,
and he can hear Garman coming, and he's like, fuck it, let's do this. And Garman bursts through the door and puts one in his head. But in his death throes, he pulls down on the trigger and sprays a good wide arc, and Garman goes down.
Bye-bye, Garman.
Yeah.
No line for you.
Ralph Garman eats it in my notes. And here's where we get the sheriff back on the radio trying to get a hold of his deputy, because, the deputy tried to call it in before he gets blown away by one of Park's lieutenants.
I don't quite understand. There's a little bit of a leap of logic there, because his hands come off it, but the deputy, the sheriff can still hear. Aren't normally like police radios like click buttons on the side or whatever it looks?
Yeah. Well, he was calling in what was happening, and he probably heard just a little bit of the blast as it was happening. And he's trying to reach out to his deputy, and all of a sudden, the preacher's on the radio there. Ooh, this is...
And he's been waiting for this moment.
Yes.
It's like, all these pictures I can send to your wife if you not too far from my church, like... Your moral,
did you enjoy yourself doing that so close to my property?
Then another racial slur against Mexican people, etc.
It kind of, it goes all over the board there with offense.
And then, you just see him drinking and crying
and loading a gun and nearly killing himself until he glances over and sees a report from the ATF about 5 points. And he thinks, I got an idea. And we fade out and enter John Goodman, who's woken up about 4:45 in the morning.
And again, another acting masterclass. Just all the little movements. You just know this character straight away, don't you? You just understand this.
Yeah. If you want to see another amazing performance from John Goodman, 10 Cloverfield Lane, the sort of sequel to Cloverfield. It's
very
just,
the messed up guy. No, I've seen that. He's great. But again, this just so many little movements. The wife as well. If you love me, you'd make me coffee.
Throws the pillow at him. It's
again, also waking up and immediately lighting a cigarette and still lying in bed with it, which I'm like, oh god, isn't that how lots of people, lots of fires start.
Absolutely. It's I love how he's able to turn on pretty immediately from being woken up.
He does ask, can I bring you back in 2 minutes? So he's I've got to go to the toilet here or something.
He's amazingly cogent for somebody that was just snapped out of probably a fairly deep sleep at that time in the morning. And then we cut back to the compound, and they're picking up Garman's body. And then we get this little
He's-
pan back into the room, and we've
And
got
you,
the hide under your buddy's body trick.
well, no,
The
so you
old-
just see two dead bodies of the boys.
yes, but
Later to then,
you do know that he was back under the trap door at the time that all this went down. So, ultimately we
you don't-
know
yeah,
that, but they don't know. They think that Garmin had taken them both out. They don't even
and then
bother to
Melissa
check.
Leo again here just and Parks
She lets it all
comforting
out.
her, and if you die, fighting the good, you're just going straight, you get a mansion in heaven, and like all of this, and that's she's his daughter. I think he was married. I think clearly established he was married in. He was married, but still, just. And they go lay him out in the shirt. Oh,
yeah, it's she's kicking at these boys' bodies, and to be able to hold yourself still and not flinch.
But if you actually see, she is on this side where it is the mate. She doesn't actually go over to his side, so the worst you'll probably get in there was a kick in the hand.
Yep. But he's very, very lucky, at least for now. And now we're back to John Goodman, and we get this fun little dig at the Westboro Baptist Church about them being sewers, not doers.
And
they
clearly
mention
establishing
Phelps by name.
Yeah, and clearly establishing that this is not the Westboro Baptist Church, even though it is based, So the idea of this film, I'm not sure if you're aware, the idea of this film comes from Small Town Gay Bar, a documentary film that Malcolm Ingram, one of Kevin Smith's friends, did about small town gay bars, and he did extensive interviews with Michael Phelps, who didn't realize he was a gay man at the time. But he showed Kevin Smith like all the tapes, and it was from that, I think, where he got a lot of the language and the flow that he's using for Michael Parks, and ways of referring to people. And he just watched like the raw footage of it, and like, this was the scariest thing I've seen. I kind of think.
Oh yeah, that's got to do something to a person.
Yeah. Especially when he's talking to your friend, who it's like, where there's extra tension there of a hidden secret, but yeah.
But the whole breakfast scene with the wife,
she's sliding across
the different,
and then she slides across the plate to with the fork over, like, clearly loving or whatever.
And
and are you sure you want to do this? We haven't got a great record in this sort of thing.
Yep. But we can be ready and mobilized in an hour.
Yeah.
And they clearly are. So now we cut back to the compound, and Travis is sneaking around, and he gets back up to the chapel, and he's, peeking
pointing
inside,
his gun at them,
And then he sees that his buddy Jared is still alive. And he has one of those, oh, fuck moments. I can't do this. And then he gets to this point where he's got to run.
Well, you can see he's assessing the room as well, of how many people are in there, and like, I've got this gun, but.
And he was ready to mow down a good number of them until he realized that his buddy was still there. Yeah. That was the moment where he does his little fuck. And then instead of going the other way and trying
but I think they'd already established he's come up from, they were in the basement, and like all the doors.
There's the one door that he tried, right? And that was locked. But
his friend tried many of them. The one who got shot in the thing had already tried many of them. So you don't know, obviously, him sneaking around downstairs, probably tried them all, etc.
Well, he decides to just, take a deep breath and burst through the church, and they're all a little surprised, and then all the men get up and chase after him, and we get much running. And wow, there's the way that it's edited.
And shot as well, the freneticness of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of bits where you think, okay, they should be right behind him and they should have caught him. But he manages to evade well enough that he gets out the front door, and they've got one of those camera attached to the front of you, type of shots, and you think, okay, he might make it. He might make it. And then a shot rings out, and he's down. And here we have the ATF.
And the giant concrete cross.
Yes. How much do you
You
think a cross like that costs?
in common sense or in money?
Yep. Yep. And we get a
Introducing Kevin Pollock.
yes, Kevin Pollak and John Goodman. There are the agents in charge, and there's this great little bit where Stephen Root, the sheriff, he was the one that ended
So
up
yeah, he's
shooting
shot it.
Travis, and he gets dressed down big time by John
Yeah.
Goodman.
And the
which is-
sheriff sets it all off. The sheriff is the one who creates all the problem. It wasn't the ATF. It wasn't,
Yep. So he gets dressed down big time, sent back to his cruiser, and you get some more back and forth with Kevin Pollak and John Goodman, and then Kevin Pollak
And when
dies.
then John Goodman tries to get onto the mic on the loud phone to try and
Oh
talk
yeah, he
to
gives
them
a
first,
speech, and there's I think it's using the word repeat that causes us to end so well every time.
and then boom, goodbye,
yes.
Kevin Pollock.
Yeah, he takes a bullet right through the eye there, and he
And
dies
gets
in
a bit of his skull in
spectacular, spectacular fashion.
And gets a bit of his skull in John Goodman's leg.
It all pops off, and Goodman kind of limps away, and he gets behind some cover, and he gets on the phone with his superior, and
dismisses the medic, saying, "Pick up a gun."
I'm
fine. Pick up a gun.
This was supposed to be, a simple op here, and then he holds out the phone to capture the audio, and he's like, "Simple, just shit itself." I love the line. It's cheesy, but I love it. And then things get darker and darker here because he's given the order after the discussion about local media that they're just to wipe them all out.
The nearest
sure
TV
there's no
station's 90
witnesses.
miles away or whatever, isn't it, or something? Yeah.
Yep, because that way we can avoid the media circus and another,
There are women and
Waco.
children in there. Okay, like this. I'm going to need that order in writing. I'm going to need the order in writing. I know your word
Email
is
or
not
text
good enough
or
in
something.
this. Yeah. I need this in writing to cover myself. Like.
Yep.
And then you have the discussion with him in the barn.
Yeah, with the leader
SWAT
of his
guy.
TAC team. Yeah. He's at first not on board. This is the wrong decision, Joe.
And he's like, "Yeah, I know it's the wrong decision, but we've got a direct order."
I got 18 years in, and if I disobey this order, my wife's going to be clipping coupons in her old age. It's boy, that's a hard ass call right there. And his the leader of his team, storms off, yelling that it's the wrong call, and then we get Dana bursting out, making a run for it, and the one team member there stops her, spray
Riley from
bullets in front of her. Yeah, you're right. From good old season 4 there. Yeah. And excuse me.
That's you.
Thank you. So he stops her, and then does he get a call on the radio?
So he gets the orders through. Yeah, he's got an earpiece in. He gets the orders through. He I didn't want confirmation.
And then he goes for his holdout piece, and he gets behind her real quick, grabs her, fires a gun from her perspective, so that there would be a little bit of gunpowder residue on her. And then he's
like, take this gun
and go back. And
also expends fires, I think, the entire clip out of the gun
to make sure that she wouldn't have anything to fire at him potentially. Yes, it's all like scary smart in the way he sets this up. Like he's done this before.
Yeah, he's done that. That's I think is the clear thing that they've all done this before. They've
Yep, it's pretty terrifying. And as this altercation is going on, Mama Leo is popping up behind him, and she puts one in his head and drags Dana off.
Oh, for Christ's sake, every time I see someone I like, gone 2 seconds later.
Yep. Drags her back into the kitchen. It's like, what the hell are you doing?
And gives her the massive dressing down.
Get on your knees and start praying. And when you're done, take this and join us up front.
and you can see a single tear down her face, like as she leaves, like as she wipes away. Like it's like, yeah, and your dad's laying, there. So obviously, and this is Ralph Garman was her father, etc. And so, mother, etc. So it's all where it is.
Yeah, it's something, all right. Let's see here. Now, where does she meet up with Jared exactly?
So
does she go down and grab? No, she cuts him off of the. That's right. She comes up to him with her gun in his face and cuts him off the cross and takes him up to her bedroom.
But that's after. I think we follow the mum first, and then we start seeing shootouts from their perspective.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of just back and forth with the gunfire, and it's all very loud and intense too.
Yeah, and all things exploding around them, etc. One comment, which probably Kevin Smith just didn't. One fault of Kevin Smith in this film. There isn't very much reloading going on of these automatic rifles.
No.
Probably having never shot action films.
Yeah, there's just endless clips. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But there were a couple of times where they swap weapons after they run out. Right. But there's a lot of the time, like how many bullets are in Michael Parks' rifle here?
Right. And
he fires quite a lot, and
he does, absolutely. And there's some great back and forth between Parks.
Again, that's on the 10th time of watching it, and I think Kevin's actually made a reference to it before. That's why I kind of put it up. But but again, so over the just this brilliant dialogue going on between everyone whilst all the shooting's going on, like, oh, you'll be up in heaven with her, Daddy, I want to, she's like, yeah, Daddy, I don't want to be here anymore. And it's like, well, go out and tells his own daughter. Yeah, you go out in the
blaze of glory, taking these sinners down, and you'll have a mansion in heaven, he says.
Yeah.
And
it's like to his own daughter of I
love this radicalizing, because at the time, we were hearing similar things in the wake of 9/11, as far as the motivations of some it's just so fucking creepy. And speaking of 9/11, that'll come back here in about 10-20 minutes.
But then she goes and cuts him down for the cross, but then Michael Parks sends away. It's like, can you go make me some sweet tea?
Right.
I think may have been like hey, let's give you a minute here or something. Seems like a compassionate gesture, even though he's just said throw yourself, get yourself killed here. But
and it definitely also feels a bit more like go get me a beer type of moment. But just in their creepy family dynamic. But
we see them go upstairs,
and they go upstairs. Yeah, and
so we see
one of the kids that's praying looks back and sees them, but doesn't really react because she's probably about 4 or something.
And probably didn't realize who he was either.
No, she's just
I think that's her sister as well.
Yep.
Come back to her in it, and but he's again like. I don't get his motivations here of just fucking he is just.
I think that at this point,
just whatever, just given up.
I think at this point, Jared has given up. He sees this as a hopeless scenario in which he is going to die, and because of that, because y'all killed my friends, go fuck yourself.
Why would I help
care
you?
What happens?
It's for the baby. And then she's like, I don't care about myself. It's for the babies. They're only 3. They're only 8. My cousin's only 3. My sister's only 8. And again, this is clearly her motivation all the way through. Is I don't want my.
Yeah, she makes a comment
living on a compound together, etc. She's clearly probably looks like she's like the school teacher effectively for them all, or whatever, or doing a lot of the caregiving for them, etc.
Babysitter, nanny type situation. Yeah. She even, she's still not exactly the best person in the world. She makes that comment about the Jewish media.
And admits to have done it, being involved in the horrible acts.
Yep. Absolutely,
etc.
But she wants to save the kids, and it to some degree, yes, that's admirable. But then
Yeah.
Melissa Leo, she sees the ball gag on the floor, drops the sweet tea, and makes a run for the
Upstairs.
upper levels there. Yep, and she bursts into the bedroom, and it goes about as you would expect. Dana gets thrown into her desk there, and she's still got her gun, and Leo's slapping the shit out of Jared. It's all very, very brutal.
Like,
And
she then goes to stop her mum, and in the struggle shoots her in the stomach.
Meanwhile,
at which point
the
we reveal
and
that
the cousins come in, and
well, no, I think it turns around and it reveals that the door was open by that point.
Yeah.
And then is mummy dead? Her sister, get up in the attic. Right.
Yep, and the older kid is just like, what the fuck are you doing? But plays her on because, she wants to save the younger kids too. But let's see where we go from here. There's still many more exchanges of gunfire. This is the moment where Park sends his couple of lieutenants up to the top of the building,
including Kevin Smith's wife, Jen Swarbuck.
Right.
Up to the crow's nest.
Yep, and this is where
the sheriff
dies in an explosion of blood.
Yeah, and then they start breaching, and when I saw that, I was like, why the bloody hell did John Goodman not get a bloody helmet? Because you see them all going in, and it's just got John Goodman, but everyone else has got a bloody helmet on. It's like,
yep.
Would have picked one off of one of the many dead bodies, mate.
I mean, he's got a really big noggin. Maybe he needs like an extra large size
or whatever.
Yeah, that could be.
And then Jen's dead.
Yep. He takes out both of them from the roof, and he's great with that MP5, isn't he?
Yeah.
And then Dana and Jared come running out, and they die absolutely pointless deaths
so then we have an exchange. There is like John Goodman talks to them first, and he's talking to them. She's dropped the gun,
but his lieutenant comes around the corner. The guy who was not down with this in any way puts one in her head.
Once you start doing it, you've got to kill everyone, because otherwise you're leaving witnesses that what the fuck you were doing, isn't it?
Again, super gross and terrifying, and
just like, what the like? Who are you meant to be like rooting for in this film? Like,
yep. They knew what they were all in for.
That was our plot. They were our like main characters or whatever,
Right, and then sound the trumpets. We get that first blast.
And then you see everyone like covering their ears as well,
because it's very such loud. A massive sound. Yes. And okay, this is that one moment in the film where something feels not quite grounded in reality. It's like, is this actually the end times? Is this
until the explanation, which was set up earlier, and you did see the explanation earlier when they were traveling as they went past the firehouse.
Yep.
You did see the thing being taken down and people collecting it.
Yep. But yes, they all hear it inside the compound. He's just lay down your arms.
And he's the little dance there, like the rapture's coming, like joy and. Mm-hmm. It's like we've won.
And the looks on their faces, there's tears streaming, and they're just so ungodly happy. And
so good was just they go, what the everyone else was like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
And then they come out of another building.
Yeah.
Which I think because obviously they were in the bunker rearming at the time. So I think the buildings, there are underground tunnels.
I think it's all connected. Yeah.
It's not sense. Established. Yeah.
That makes sense. But they step outside.
And also explains where the kids might have been in another building that wasn't the one being shot at. That's why, further back or whatever. Because that always seemed weird that you'd have them upstairs, not in the basement. And
Yep.
When when it's all being shot out, and they seem away from it as well. Like the noise seems lesser where they are as well. So.
Yep. And so John Goodman, Joe, he's screaming at
Parks, what is it?
Yeah. Just what is that? And Parks is just having the time of his life.
It's the rapture. You're all gonna burn.
Yeah. G-Man, G for godless.
And starts quoting Revelations about how many times the trumpets go, which
And
then
just,
calls back later.
Shoot me. And
it just and then gets right up in John Goodman's face, and
then debrief time. And hey, it's the guy with the giant eyebrows who dies from fright in Mulholland Drive. He's the guy on the left, and I can't think of the actor on the right, but you've seen.
But they're both people that you've seen. It's
they're good character actors, and that's
and to be
fair, this film.
You would, apart from Jen, I think Jen's probably the only giveaway that this is a Kevin Smith film at this point. Ralph Garman as well, but to a lesser extent, he has done acting other than all the rest of it. Is a very sparing use. There's pretty much no real use of the usual suspects from the Kevin Smith universe. I still think that if you showed this to Kevin Smith fans that didn't know of its existence and not had his name anywhere on it, that they would not think it was a Kevin Smith film.
Yeah, absolutely. It is the least Kevin Smith
It's shot brilliantly. It's everything's very phonetic. There's action. There's all sorts of stuff, and loads of really fantastic actors. Even if they're only there for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, just great little character beats throughout this entire thing. And then they kind of snap Joe back to reality there, and they ask him, how did you subdue the pastor?
With a tactical headbutt, or something.
Headbutt. Well, he was standing unnaturally close.
Yeah.
And that all makes
and then
sense.
once the hordes, how many times we just arrested them? It was clear the rapture wasn't happening. And going through about why did you, what they were doing, why did you, and then all the on the record stuff, and then they turn it off.
You disobeyed a direct order to wipe them all out, but you're being promoted, and he's just as shocked as we are that he's being sent for being reassigned after 1 week unpaid suspension for disobeying the order, and that's why he's turning in his gun and his badge there on the table too, of course. But they after they turn off the camera. Yeah,
they get a bit more honest.
You're going to kill them all, aren't you? Oh, but we don't kill people. We're the United States government. Camera goes off. Oh, yeah, we're going to kill them.
Kill them with kindness.
Yeah. And it's like, trial? No, Patriot Act, bitch. It's terrorism, Joe.
Yeah, this is terrorism. They never see a court. We get to look them away until the day they die.
Oh, God. Yes, this is...
And then we get the brilliance of what was the noise, and this fantastic scene of there was these local, these college kids that had started up a compost co-op, and the churches didn't like it because it stunk, and it was like, did it smell? Oh my God, you could taste it.
Compost Collective, was it bad? It gets so you can taste it.
Yeah,
I just love the way it's phrased.
And then they're describing this, that. Oh, well, there's a brilliant one of then they started, flaming bags of dog shit on the door. What was the other one? And it was like, oh, bloody college kids. No, that was the church. The kids did nothing. They never retaliated.
Yeah, never even called the cops. And it turns out because it's a pot farm, it's a cover for a pot farm. But
you find out later that they bought what you saw, which was the siren from the firehouse being bought, and they connected an iPad just downloaded some random horde sounds to fuck with them.
So you didn't know about this at all, and he's like, nope, just
and the kids didn't know. The kids they couldn't hear it. They were just there, just dumb luck, and it saved a lot of lives.
Yeah,
and then we found out it was a pot farm, so they're all in booking downstairs. He's like, I'll write a letter.
Maybe if you could put in a good word. It's like, I'll write a letter.
They saved a lot of people's lives. It's like.
And then you get this really impassioned monologue from John Goodman about when he was a child, his grandmother on his mother's side, had a couple of bloodhounds, and they grew up together from their litter, and they're just the sweetest, most gentle-natured dogs ever. Until the Thanksgiving of his 9th year, where he decided, he was just going to throw him a scrap of food from the table, and they turned on each other like the most bloodthirsty. Never knew each other. They were going for the jugular. And how does he phrase it? People just do the strangest things when they believe they're entitled, but they do even stranger things when they just believe.
Just to believe. Again, like so many people, just so fantastic speeches, delivery, It's... Yeah.
And this whole thing in this debrief, this is where this very much feels like a Kevin Smith film again, or
There's a few jokes, but again, it's fairly clean and fairly there's no dick jokes anyway.
No, but in just how dialogue heavy it is,
yeah.
and just a little back and forth and all that. But then we cut to this prison, and you hear the prayer
creepiest.
from Parks, and
creepiest singing,
going about their time and so on, and and then he finally wraps up.
Clearly not
Kevin
lost his
Smith
faith.
From
he established clearly, like with his singing, like he clearly hasn't lost his faith and stuff like.
Yep, and then Kevin Smith from off camera, Mark.
Shut the fuck up.
Yep. And credits
with some more Park singing.
Yeah,
some hymnals. So, interesting fact: there is no score to this film.
Yeah,
all of the music is performed in the film.
Yeah, it's all diegetic. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I appreciate the hell out of that. It's all one of those things that just, again, makes it feel a little bit more real, a little bit more grounded.
Yeah. And then we get the kicker at the end of most of the cast will return and hit somebody. God damn you, the goon. It was Michael Sean Phillips, so it was meant to be playing the lead in Kevin Smith's one, and then got that one, and it's like, well, these are effectively the same movie, so we can't make it.
Yeah.
Oh, but
yeah, man.
Only for Michael Parks to return in Tusk.
Yeah.
Another film we may talk about one day.
Someday. That's a rough one for a lot of folks, and it's a movie, that's for sure.
But you see why I chose Red State. Well, Tusk is a more traditional horror, more towards the horror genre. Like
Tusk
Red State is
absolutely inspired by Audition in many ways.
Tusk is 100% inspired by a Craigslist lad from Brighton.
Oh, I know that backstory, but Mark
and Kevin Smith getting very stuck. I'm not watching Audition, so again,
as well you should not. I know that is not a film for you.
Yeah, but it's just so believable of a film. The performances are just stellar by all these people. You got so many great little cameos, and it's just a head fuck. It's just such a head fuck of a film of like
it's an oddly structured film because you get the first maybe third to half of the film, which feels like you're set up for your typical horror film or something horror adjacent. And then by the time the ATF shows film, up, it turns into more of an action film or something like that. And, it's pretty clear.
And then it kind of ends as a thriller kind of thing of all the plot points getting put together and explained and just but it's not it's hard to define a film. It was
absolutely, it's definitely horror adjacent. It's certainly terrifying in just how it deals with the fringe of Christianity there and just true believers in general.
Selective believers.
Yeah,
I would prefer to say. Very selective.
It's some creepy stuff.
The passages about man laying with men are 2 sentences away from Jewish food law.
Yeah.
About storing, not eating seafood and things like that. And and when you actually, because I had a very my RE teacher in high school was someone who translated some of the earliest versions of the Dead Sea Scrolls for the Bible, and very, irreverent but very, very knowledgeable about it. And it was just like, here are all these things. And when you actually look at all these passages, these all make sense. Like, not me drinking the milk of
coming
the mother
from the
thing,
time that they were,
because you don't have refrigeration, you don't have latex condoms, you don't have all of these things. But all of these people don't follow. None of these people will follow the Jewish food laws, but they will pick out this one thing and damn people to hell for it.
Yep.
It's terrifying. A few paragraphs later, it's how much you should sell your daughter to slavery for. And what's a good price for that?
As far as this film being Red State, and at the time, a little bit of a commentary on red states throughout the U.S., it's definitely gotten worse with the rise of Trumpism and just the cult-like factors that are involved with that.
And the tacit acceptance. Mm-hmm. From the sheriffs and the people, they've stockpiling, like the ATF,
Well, and there are certainly people that are willing to let so much of the over-the-top creepy nature of all of that go because it does their own personal interests well. And
or it doesn't contribute. They're still on our they're on our side. It doesn't in some way affect
them, but
it's a I think a masterpiece of a film. And Michael Parks, he's just so many of them, but they just nails that character that you can understand how he'd pull you in and you'd be enthralled by him, and and you see the steps of him justifying things, you see the way he's using language. I'll say it's scary as all hell because it's so bloody believable.
Oh yeah, absolutely terrifying. Mark, any final thoughts on Red State?
Just I love the film. Obviously I hope you watched it before you watched this because we've just ruined the hell out of it. But
anybody watching or listening to a podcast discussing a film, caveat emptor, right? You know what you're getting into, or at least I would hope you would at this point. Mark, where can people find you?
At the Indie Boy 1 on Twitter. It's probably about the only thing I've got to promote. I don't have a podcast. I do a monthly Zoom, which me and Joe obviously have where this was discussed and
sure.
Brought out this
Mark,
podcast along with other ones.
I absolutely have to thank you. You were, one of the two people that really helped to give birth to this thing. So
it was just giving you the push that you needed to actually start it and
absolutely
put a framework around it.
Much appreciated, sir. And
I've enjoyed the episodes so far, apart from the Andy Mack one. And, that's that. Really,
no digs on Andy Mack.
Comment, Joe. I mean, he's just a an old man, and I'm just glad you had to watch Yoga Hosers for Yaz's podcast. just be glad I chose Red State for you, Joe.
I suppose that's fair. I suppose that's fair. Well, thank you, Mark. It's again much appreciated coming.
Thank you for having me. I am always happy to talk Kevin Smith.
There you go. Well, this has been Murders with Mertens, a horror film podcast. Thank you for letting us tickle your ear holes. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and all that, but I'll be back soon enough with another episode. But until next time, stay spoopy, everyone.
Bye.